To run some misdirection and hand this off with the gut here to Terry. He's got a big hole at the 40, 45, 50. He's behind everyone at the 40, 35. Here goes Terry down the left sideline. No one's going to catch him. Cam Terry does it again for the Bulldogs, 76 yards.
Yeah, Cam Terry wasting no time there.
4th and 15 for Granville from the Rockford 28-yard line. 1:20 remaining. Rockford leads it 14-7. Love goes in motion. Fake handoff. Bootleg right to pass. Has some time. Fires left side. He's got Love at the 15. At the 10-yard line. Cut baby at the 5. Down. Touchdown Granville. Marcel Love. Man is fake, give down to Jaden Terry. Big cut move to the 15. At the 10. Explosive speed at the 5. Touchdown Granville. Jaden Terry, the freshman, what a run. And the Bulldogs go back on top. Newville under center. Turn. Give. It's a fake. It's a throw to the end zone. Wide open. Gimme Connolly. Caught. 2-point conversion. Good. Granville takes the lead. What a play call. And hello everyone and welcome to Bulldog Stadium. We are back here with Game Night on Michigan Sports Radio. Nate Dreyer, this is the first edition of our new show, Dawgs Plus, a live edition as we're at the Scrimmage. 4 teams here, including the Granville Bulldogs, getting ready for the 2025 season. So many storylines that we're going to get to here throughout the next little bit as we're going to work through some of the things that is going to be very big for what is going to be a very exciting season for the Granville Bulldogs in 2025. In a little bit, you're going to hear from head coach Eric Steagle. Had a chance to call him the other day, had about a 30-minute interview previewing the season with Coach Stiegel as he ran through the whole team. A lot of the key pieces that I think we can keep an eye on coming into this season. And coming into today's scrimmage as well, which is really big so far. By the way, the Bulldogs opening up by scrimmaging Traverse City West, looking really good. Defense off to a good start, and the offense was striking quickly. Jaden Terry went, I think, all but about a half yard on his very first touch. So the Bulldogs are off and running the way that certainly they would like to here in this first scrimmage. As I said, welcome to our new show, Dawgs Plus. The whole point of this podcast, we're back down to just one show a week instead of the 2 that we tried last year. We're combining some of what we did. We're going heavy on the Granville Bulldogs coverage, certainly this season. You've all know that if you've been able to see our schedule. Michigan Sports Radio will have 8 of the 9 games during the regular season covered live. We will be at 7 of them, and then all the playoff games as well, starting with video coverage week 1 against Muskegon. We'll have radio coverage week 2 at Cass Tech for the Bulldogs gauntlet of a non-conference schedule to start the year. But this show, a lot of focus on the Granville Bulldogs, interviews with players and coaches like we've done in the past. We also will look around the area, including today we're going to unveil, even though CT's not with me, I'll have his unveiled as well, our top 10 preseason West Michigan polls that we'll be doing throughout the rest of the season for a little bit of an area-wide look, along with just a focus here on the Bulldogs. As always, follow us on social media at MI Game Night. All of the podcasts will be here on YouTube. All of the live games are on Michigan Sports Radio. It's that simple. Looking for a live game, Michigan Sports Radio, the website, the app. The app also really good to be able to cast to your TV if you want to be able to do that. And then all the podcasts right here on YouTube where you are watching this, either live here at 6:04 this evening or at some other point, because maybe you're a player out there right now on the field behind me as the Bulldogs continue to go to work defensively and nearly got an interception right there. Good work there from the Bulldogs. Again, this is an exciting team. That was Carson Luke, by the way, the linebacker that was out in coverage, nearly getting a piece of that one. So storylines for 2025. We'll go over some storylines, then I'm going to take a quick break and we'll send it to Coach Stiegel for that 30-minute interview or so as he can, of course, preview the season way better than I can and certainly knows more football than CT and I could possibly ever imagine, especially knows about this team, of course, so incredibly well. I think if you're starting looking at 2020, by the way, before I continue, Bennett Center, Farmers Insurance Agency, our loan presenting sponsor this year. is back with us. We are incredibly excited, of course, to have Bennett, have Farmers Insurance. They've been a long-time supporter, very excited that they're back with us this year. So, of course, as we get started, everything game night, we've, of course, got some great partners through Michigan Sports Radio as well, but everything game night is presented by the Bennett Center Agency in Wyoming. That simple. Start with that. That's our top line on everything. We're very, very fortunate that they're back with us for once again another year to present our coverage of the Bulldogs and everything else here on Game Night. So storylines, let's talk about some big picture things with the Bulldogs first, then even some of those big picture things answered by Coach Stiegel in the interview that we will have just on to follow that. The first thing, really looking at some of the pressure on this team, and for a good reason. I think you're looking around the area, a team that likely are going to be the favorites in the OK Red. Talking to some of the other writers at MSR and some of the different things as well, and looking at, not full consensus, but this is a team in Granville that has got the pressure on them for good reason. So many key players that do return. They lost some big pieces. We'll talk about that in a second. But there is pressure on this team for good reason. They returned 5+, let's say, on the offensive line. If you look at some things, like a Garrett Naraki that moves on to more of a full-time offensive role at tight end, Coach Stiegel, we'll talk about that. 3 of those positions come on the offensive line. Including if you kind of look at Matt Key, will be stepping into a full-time starting role after he started, 7 games last year, filling in for Jay Weiss with some injury there. So this team loads back up on the offensive line. On the defense, 6 or 7+ return, and they can do a lot of different things. We'll talk about that. It's a multiple team. Of course, the top-line story of the Bulldogs, you just committed to Ferris State the other day, Jaden Terry to senior season. He's going to have a role on both sides of the ball. We know what the offensive role is. I don't even need to talk about it. Maybe the best running back the state has seen in several years. Is there maybe a Mr. Football type of future for Jaden based on the senior season that he certainly could have? He would, of course, be right in there to have my vote. But how can Jaden and this team go out in his senior year with some other guys like Daniel Wiley, a 3-year starter around him as well? There's been a big part. Josh Crater has been a big part of this team from start to finish, and like I said, he'll have a defensive role as well. The defense is going to be fun. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more, and Coach Stiegel will, of course, get into that a little bit more in a minute as well, because that's going to be a big-time talking point, I think, with this year's team is this defensive look that they're able to give, and a lot of different styles, I think, is going to be really a critical thing to be able to keep your eye on this year. And with the defense, can they finish this year the way that they finished last year? You look at the playoff run, talked about this coming up with Coach Stiegel a little bit, the way that they played in 2024, if they play that way again, I think you're looking at a ceiling for this football team being extremely, extremely high. If they are able to play that way on the defensive side of the football, again, the way they did in the playoffs, the way that they started to come in, started to really mesh around Coach Zenner's system in his first year of this team, it's going to be dangerous. Look at they won the game against Rockford. They kept the offense in it just long enough to try to get something going against Hudsonville in the game. They ultimately lost the last 2 games of the regular season. They played really well. You look at the turnaround defensively, for this team last season. If you look at what they did, so the first 4 games of the year, of course, think of some of the opponents that they had. The first 4 games of the year defensively last year, Granville gave up 41.5 points per game. In their last 7, they gave up 18 points per game, less than 20 points per game, then given up in those games to close the year. They gave up 20 or less points, 14 points per game, in all of their last 4 games, including the 2 playoff games. So defensively for Granville is a huge step up in the middle of the season as they started to coalesce around this system, coalesce around Coach Zenner in his first season. That's going to be an exciting thing, certainly, that we're watching. They're dealing with a tough schedule. That's, once again, a talking point with the Bulldogs this year. We know what the OK Red is going to bring to the table, but the non-conference, Muskegon, the winningest team in the state of Michigan. Cass Tech, the reigning state champion. They have a 5-star quarterback. They have a 5-star running back. They have a 5-star wide receiver. They've got 5 300-pound guys across the offensive line. They're the consensus #1 team in the state coming into the year, and they got to go to Cass, to Detroit in week 2. That's, of course, a very, very difficult schedule start for the Bulldogs. And you think about the impact on playoff seeding, the playoff run. You're going to have to survive that gauntlet, put up as many playoff points as you can and as many wins as you can. And then we'll see the impact that it has. The schedule this year: Muskegon, at Cass, at West Ottawa, at Caledonia. So 3 out of the first 4 games, and 3 in a row there are on the road. Then home against Rockford, home against Jenison, at East Kentwood, and a couple of home games. This is really critical, I think, against East Kentwood and against Hudsonville to close the regular season. Our broadcast schedule: Michigan Sports Radio will be at every game except for the Jenison game. Rockford, that'll be the Rockford Michigan Sports Radio team. The rest, myself, and mostly Chandler. I think Aiden Lynch will be filling in for Chandler one of those games. I think the radio broadcast from at West Ottawa. Besides that, you know the deal. We're going to be there all season long. The offense, a new quarterback this year, and that was a little bit up in the air. Coach Stiegel came out in the interview, said Jeffrey Fogelsonger's taking the lead. Looks like maybe a bit of a nick-up for him today. So Crater getting a lot of the snaps as well. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that, but a couple of really good options. But Fogelsonger, the expected starter for the Bulldogs as of at least when I last talked to Coach Stiegel. I mean, they've got great size across the offensive line. They've got a really exciting tight end group this year as well that they're going to be able to do. And then there's a depth of running back. This is year number 9 for me covering the Granville Bulldogs, going back all the way when I was like 19 years old. I was a sophomore in college. I think I started. CT joined me a year later. This is about as good, I think, of a running back room as, quite honestly, I think this team has had. There have been some good ones. I know 2019, 2020, of course, is up there, but this is a really dangerous group when you look at what they have the ability to do, the depth they have as well with Jaden Terry, DJ Hardiman, Braylon Haney, Jeremiah Morales, Oren Kayak, the sophomore who already scored in this scrimmage as well. He's going to be an exciting piece for the Bulldogs as well. So keeping an eye on that in the backfield and overall depth in general. Mentioned depth there, but across the board, they've got a lot of guys, the Bulldogs do, that they want to play both ways. Coach Stiegel said to me, he said in other interviews, he loves how this team just has a bunch of football players, guys that can move all over the place, especially on the defensive side of the ball where they can get really multiple. And I think the question is how they're going to limit snaps, how they're going to make sure that they can keep guys fresh while still putting them in a lot of different roles. Terry, Haney, Naraki, Wiley, Hardiman, Kroll, a bunch of guys. They're going to have a big role, Crater, playing potentially both ways, and how they can most effectively be able to do that is certainly something that we're going to be watching. All right, that's enough of me talking. I think everyone wants to get to the main talking point here. That is Coach Stiegel, who called in the other day, gave us a lot of time to go over this 2025 Bulldog season that we're previewing here. So step aside, quick word from the sponsors, and then we'll turn it over to head coach Eric Steagle.
Final game, folks. This one wins the series.
Struck out with the cheap seats? Important things aren't worth compromising. At Farmers, we offer both quality insurance and great savings. Here, take mine.
We are Farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Game Night is presented in part by Farmers Insurance, Bennett Center Agency, for all auto, home, specialty, life, and commercial insurance. See what a center can do for you. The Game Night Shop is back for 2025 and restocked with new designs for the new season, along with classic bestsellers like the Granville vs. Everyone Power T-shirts. Show your support for Game Night and our Granville Bulldogs coverage with exclusive designs of T-shirts, hoodies, crew necks, hats, beanies, drinkware, stickers, and much more. Visit MichiganGameNight.com/shop to check it out today. And welcome back, everyone, to Game Night. 2025 is here, and on the phone, the head coach of the Granville Bulldogs, Eric Steagle. And was it now your 12th season? How are you tonight, Coach? And thanks as always for your time joining us.
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
All right, let's get rolling because this is a really exciting team. Let's kind of talk big picture first off. You know, a lot of guys that are 3-4 year returners lost some big pieces from last year from a team that did so much and went on that run, taking down Rockford and so much. Tell us about what camp has been like so far and what the excitement around this team is for you and the staff.
Well, it was a great off season, and a great spring, great summer. Fall camp, we've had 1 week up to this point, and I want to give a ton of credit to our seniors. It's been outstanding. I think our senior class is, they are one of the most talented. You mentioned a lot of 3-4 year players in this group, but also just phenomenal kids, and I think the best kids in the high school. So I'm fortunate to be their coach, and they're it's been exciting. There's a lot of expectations that we have for ourselves, and I'm sure people have on the outside. So, it's been outstanding and just been a great first week of fall camp.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Let's take a look at this team, and let's start on the defensive side of the ball this year. And that's where you look at the stretch run. Really the last 3-4 games in the playoffs, the defense was leading the way in a lot of ways for you guys. So now year 2 for defensive coordinator Zenner. Tell us about big picture first off, looking at that defense and how you think they might be able to really continue some of that momentum from the end of last season.
You're right. I think down the stretch, I think when there was a point in that season, I think it was probably after the Hudsonville game in the regular season when we lost, where I think our defense really, we had saw things prior to that, but it really turned a corner. The West Ottawa game, they kind of pushed a kick, got it. We got them on a 4th down stop and really controlled the game. I think the defense put their feet in the ground. Against Caledonia, they were outstanding. Just kind of smothered the Caledonia offense. And then obviously you look in the playoffs when, we did get down early, but the defense kept us in the game until the offense got rolling a little bit. But then you look at that second half of the Rockford game, and the defense was outstanding with, I think, 3 or 4 consecutive stops, probably 2 or 3 of those were 3 and outs. Just outstanding. And even in that playoff loss, the defense was again, pitched a shutout at halftime. Really did a great job and had the defense in short fields in the second half. So I think you said it. It's second year for Casey Zenner. I think I think our guys, middle last year started to understand who he was and what he was trying to bring to the program. But I think he also understood who they were and what they needed. And I think with a full off season and, obviously the summer camps and our first week of fall camp, I think the defense has been great. And I think, for me, it's exactly what I want in a football team. I want a football team that plays great defense, can defend power run teams, can defend spread teams, and then have a team that can run the ball effectively and control the clock. And I think that is what's going to win the OK Red. And I think that's what can get you to, that's what can make runs in the playoffs and beat some of the best teams in the state.
Yeah, that's exciting to hear. Let's take a look at some of that personnel, because especially on the defensive side of the ball, good amount of returners up front on the defensive line. Maybe where there are going to be some more of the new pieces, but guys that we saw in the rotation last year. So take us through some of the key contributors heading into the season that we can expect to see up front on the defense first.
Right. I think that is that, the defensive line, we had some great pieces that left last year with, Emery Moody, and we had Brett Becker, who's a two-way kid for us. We had some other guys that also stepped in there, Carson Kubzak. For us, I think one of the guys that started, I think, every game for us last year is Evan Wyman. He'll be, a 2-year player for us, but played up a little bit as a sophomore. He can play interior defensive line. He can play on the edge on the defensive line. I think he'll be one of the best defensive linemen in the OK Red. Has had, really an outstanding, summer and fall camp, and has kind of stood out to us. Daniel Wiley, who's been primarily an offensive player in his 2 years on varsity, will also see some time on the interior defensive line as well. He's a kid who's 6'2", 260, has some offers to play college football. So, we think he's going to be really good there too. Looking at the inside too, I kind of point to 2 other guys that I think have done a really good job in there. One is going to be Nolan Stelma, second-year player for us, and he's a little bit quicker, smaller guy. He's going to move around real well and do some things in there and create some matchups for us. And then the bigger piece is Grant Maskey. Grant Maskey kind of spent half the season on JV, played a lot of varsity football. He's a big physical guy that's hard to move in there. He'll be a junior for us. So we think those guys also Caleb Cherry, who's going to be a senior for us, contributed last year towards, down the stretch. Those will be guys that we count on inside probably every week. And I think we'll probably have some change up smaller pieces that we can put in there too, to be a little bit more quick, dynamic in there too. But we have some, those are the big guys. On the edge, I kind of mentioned that Wyman will play out there. But then I think you look at, Carson Kubzak, who's a 3-year varsity player for us, who graduated. He's got a younger brother who will be a senior named Carter Kubzak, longer, probably a little more athletic. He's been a really good edge player for us, as well as Brendan Reese, who's a junior. Those guys have shown some great things. Some other guys you might see out there on the edge for us. You may see DJ Hardiman out there, who is a running back for us as a sophomore. Probably a little bit of a different changeup. He's a different matchup for us. he had, if you've seen DJ run, he's got tremendous power, tremendous burst. Is very quick and shifty, and we think those traits can kind of translate into, whether it be an edge rusher, maybe do some of the things you saw Emery Moody do last year, where he lined up as a middle linebacker sometimes a defensive lineman. I think you'll see him in some roles in the defensive line as well. But I do think you hit it. I mean, that is a spot where we've seen a lot of guys do a lot of really good things for us, thus far in the summer and the fall, but we have to, I think we're really going to assess that group going into the, the four-way scrimmage, which I think this is going to be broadcast on potentially. We'll get a better look and kind of get a feel, but I think we have some variability up there. I'll put it that way. I think we have some really good players, but we can create some different matchups week to week based on what we think we need to do to be successful.
That's exciting to hear. Beyond there, then, you move into the linebacking group, and this is a group that is probably a little bit more solidified. A couple of 3-year guys, there with Braylon and Garrett, some other guys that we saw get some snaps as well. So tell us about that linebacking group, which is led by quite a bit of experience.
Yeah, I think this group coming back as a linebacker group is one of the best, if not the best, that I've had in my 12 years. And we've had some good ones. I think you start with Garrett Naraki and Braylon Haney in the middle. Those guys are both 3-year players, both extremely physical, athletic, can play well in the run and pass game. I think, not just good standing at, 4 or 5 yards to the linebacker depth, but can get up in the line of scrimmage and pass rush, be edges for us, very versatile. Keegan Kroll last year started every game for us at outside linebacker. He has taken some tremendous steps. And I think he's one of the best football players on our team. You'll see him do some different things too. I think, past that, Jaden Terry, obviously everybody knows him as a running back. You saw him down the stretch last year contribute a lot on defense. And I think he's a guy that can step in and again, right now we have him penciled in as a starter on defense, as a two-way guy. But position, that's kind of up in the air. I mean, we just know that he's a great football player. He can play inside linebacker. He can play outside linebacker, could play corner, could play defensive end. But we kind of have him penciled in as kind of like a little hybrid linebacker safety type for us right now. And again, have complete trust in him as an athlete, as a football player, as a teammate. So we think he'll be really, do a great job there. Carson Luke, who didn't play a lot last year, on the defense, but contributed a ton on special teams, has looked very good for us. And, one of the questions that, that I have for our defensive staff is always like, who are our best 11 defenders, regardless of position, because, there are certain things you got to be able to take on blocks. You have to be able to tackle. You got to be able to cover. I think Carson Luke might be one of the best 11 defensive players on our team. So he's a name to watch for. He's looked really good early in camp. So we'll see where he fits in. And again, I think he's a guy that, depending where we put him in, lets guys like Garrett Naraki and Tank play in some different spots and give us some advantages. So I think he's done a great job. Some younger guys at linebacker that have done well. We've had, Dylan Miller, who's going to be a junior. He stepped in and done a good job so far for us, and Ethan Loverin as well. So we have some guys there. And I also want to mention Gavin Rosscamp too, who will be a junior for us, probably more of an outside linebacker safety type that has done some good things in camp. So I do think this year that scrimmage, it's big for us every year. And we recently had an inter-squad scrimmage where we saw a lot of things from our guys. I think this four-way scrimmage coming up with TC West, Belleville, and St. Joseph's is going to be big for a lot of these guys that, didn't play last year, because we know so much about Garrett Naraki and Evan Wyman and Daniel Wiley and Jaden Terry and Braylon Haney, and then, Josh Crater in the secondary. But there are so many guys that we think are really good football players that we have to see how they are in a, I'll call it like a live setting. So it's going to be a really exciting scrimmage for us.
Yeah, and we can kind of quickly then touch on the secondary, because some of the same storylines to some extent are there in terms of experience with guys, and then some of that variability as well. So tell us about the mix at the secondary group, because there's quite a bit of experience and quite a bit of talent there as well.
Right. I think it starts with Josh Crater. He was an all-region safety for us last year. I think he's, one of the best DBs we've had here in my time, 3-year player for us. I think by the end of the year, you saw him as a guy who was great in coverage, but also would run the alley and tackle about as well as any safety we've had. Maybe I'll go back to 2016 and Jalen Reniga, who was just a monster at safety for us. But, Josh Crater is that kind of kid where he can impact the defense on every play. He's athletic. He's got great ball skills. He's smart. He can tackle. He's a guy that's going to probably lead the secondary. Jaden Brown started most of the season for us at corner last year before an injury. So we have him back. He's lengthy. He's 6'1", 6'2", can really run. Has some college interest. We expect him to have a big year for us. And there's some other guys that have, again, they might be surprising to people that on the outside, but I think when you watch our guys work, throughout the offseason and that, Cam Leonard did not play a ton for us last year. Got on some special teams, has looked really good so far at corner for us. And again, it's going to be a big scrimmage for him as he takes on some really good receivers. But he's looked outstanding. Brecken Mann has had a really good camp for us. So I think there's going to be some position battles, both for the starting spots and then both for some packages, when we get into some 4 or 5 DB looks, or, we want to move certain guys around. So we're looking at some different guys in that spot. So, really excited to see those guys and how they perform. Another guy I want to mention too, I think had a really good inter-squad scrimmage for us, was Wyatt Kalinda. Again, he'll be a senior, did not play a ton as a junior, but he's a wrestler, has shown the ability to come up and tackle. And I think, for me, one of the things that I've said to, the media as, they've kind of asked, what's the strength of this team? And I think the strength of this team is just that we have a lot of football players. We don't necessarily say, hey, we have a defensive end and a linebacker and a safety. We have a lot of really good football players. And I think what that lends itself to is, week to week, us being able to, maybe have the trump card in our hand to play what kind of lineup we want and match up with people, or force people's hand and force them to match up with us. And I think week to week, we're going to be able to do that and have some really, really good football players on the field. And, those guys that I mentioned on defense that's probably where you're going to see that shine.
Yeah, that's exciting to hear. Love to hear that sort of notion. Let's go to offense. Let's talk about some more football players. Right. Let's start up front. Got a few returners there on the offensive line along with the tight end group, but we know out of the T offense, that's where it starts. So tell us about what the offensive line, the tight end group is going to look like this year.
Well, I think, for me, the offensive line tight end group is they're kind of synonymous. They work together, they practice together, almost every session. Obviously, our tight ends, they got to catch the ball and do some things, but, they are the lifeblood of the offense. We have, as good a running back crew as maybe we've had here, but that offensive line crew has been good. And I expect those guys to have a good year. We'll start with the tight end group. I think, Garrett Naraki, we expect him to be a two-way guy. I think he's just that kind of kid. That he's too good for us not to play him both ways. He is simply just one of the, he's one of the best athletes that I probably coach just as a raw athlete. He's 6'1", 6'2", probably over 210 pounds, can really run, physical, catches the ball well, obviously in defense, tackles well. He played really well in our inter-squad scrimmage, blocked really well, caught some passes. So I think, he is, again, not surprisingly, kind of stepped up as our top tight end this year. I think after that, there are some guys that have also looked really good. One move we've made was we moved Keegan Kroll, who was primarily a defensive player last year, to tight end. Keegan is, again, he's probably the second fastest kid on the team, behind Tank, and again, and it's pretty close. Keegan may be a college track athlete and running the 200, the 400, extremely fast, but also is one of our strongest kids in the weight room. So I think he's going to provide a dynamic for us at tight end where he's going to be a great end line blocker on a lot of our outside runs. athletic to go with the linebackers, but also in the pass game. If you bite up on the run, you're not going to catch him. If he catches a pass, it's going to be a touchdown because you're not going to catch him because he'll be one of the fastest kids on the field. So he's been, done a really good job there. And then I want to talk about a pair of juniors. Carter Jarsma, who started on the JV last year, has had a really, really good camp for us. Thought he played really well in our inter-squad scrimmage. Again, physical, end line blocker, catches the ball well. It's going to be a really good second-level blocker. And I think as the camp goes on and the year goes on, he's going to keep getting better and better. But I think there's probably a little position battle right now for that second tight end between, Jarsma and Kroll as that goes on. And then we also have another player named Jackson Dode. And Jackson Dode is you look at him, you're going to think a lot of Gibby Connolly. He's 6'5". He's slender as a junior, just much like Gibby was. He's actually a little bigger than Gibby was as a junior. Okay. He's probably 6'5", and just over 200 pounds right now. Runs well, catches well, athletic. His sister was Zoe Dode, who's a Division I volleyball player at Virginia right now. So he's had a really good camp too. And we expect him to be a guy that's going to be able to come in, and we're not going to miss a beat, and is going to do great things. And I think. Like with a lot of our juniors on this team, because we've had so many of these seniors play and start for 2 or 3 years, we're starting to see our juniors catch up to them, even throughout the summer and this first week of camp. Because I think when we started, you saw a guy like Jackson Dode, and you're like, well, he's not in the same realm right now as a Garrett Naraki or a Daniel Wiley in the offensive line. But you're starting to see him starting to, really develop and hold his own. So that's exciting to see. The tackle position, we got 2 guys that have played a lot. Daniel Wiley will be a 3-year starter for us. One of the best football players I've coached, but also I think more than that, I don't know that I've coached a better kid. And I think the teachers would say that, the administration would say that. Just a phenomenal kid. So he's gonna move from left tackle to right tackle for us. This year, where Jay Weiss was last year, Wiley will be there this year. Matt Key, who played probably started 7 games when Jay Weiss was hurt, will be at the left tackle. Matt Key's had an outstanding summer and has taken big steps. And I think he's, he could be one of the better offensive linemen in the OK Red. So really excited about that tackle group. At guard, we have Lincoln Schackemeyer coming back, who started every game for us last year. Also our long snapper. We anticipate him starting at left guard, but he can also play center as well, for us. At the other guard position, a name that maybe you'll recognize a little bit. Gavin Peters, he's the younger brother of Caden Peters, who's a 3-year starter for us. So Gavin Peters, as a freshman and sophomore, played tackle, on the lower levels, but we're moving him inside to guards. We think he's a really good athlete, moves well, comes off the ball, going to be really athletic for us. Going to do a great job there. Brendan Reese will also probably compete for that right guard spot as well, as we kind of move through the scrimmage. Center, I mentioned obviously that Lincoln Schackemeyer has played center for us a little bit, but Cohen Smith, who was a junior, has probably taken the reins in that role and done a good job for us. Expect him to learn and grow. I think coming out of that inter-squad scrimmage, the guys who had played a lot, they still probably you could tell that Wiley and Schackemeyer and Key had played a lot of varsity football. And in some of our younger guys, they're getting there, they're looking good, but there's some mistakes we still have to, we have to clean up there with those guys as well. I mentioned Grant Maskey as a defensive lineman and Evan Wyman as a defensive lineman. Those guys have some variability. Wyman can play tackle and guard for us. Has work rep there in some roles, kind of backing up, and Maskey is kind of backed up a tackle. So we feel really good about that group. We have the ability to change some pieces around and, get bigger, get smaller, both at tight end and the offensive line. So, we feel really good about them.
Yeah, no, that's exciting to hear. Such a critical part. All right, now as I actually move through my notes properly, let's move on to the quarterback position. Couple options there, a couple of seniors as you guys look to replace Ethan Newville this year.
I think Jeffrey Fogelsonger has stepped up and has kind of taken the lead in that job.
Okay.
Has been really good. Throwing the ball really well, has ran the ball well, and I think more than anything is just coming into the offense well. I think his teammates trust him. Has again up to this point looked like he's gonna be the guy that's gonna lead our offense and do a great job at that. So I've been really impressed with him. Coming into this year. Again, I think he's throwing the ball better than he has. He looks like he's stronger and faster than he was as a junior. So we expect big things out of Jeffrey. Josh Crater will also, we've repped him there, and he's probably our backup quarterback to start the season. Different kind of quarterback. He is again one of the best athletes on our team, and I think that's also an option for us. So we'll see in the scrimmage where he lands.
Yeah, no, that's good to hear. I mean, good to have depth, and of course, also a guy like Josh, important that we know what he means on the defensive side of the football as well. All right, the running backs. As I think you mentioned a little bit earlier, this is a group that is about as good. I mean, I think this is my 9th season now, and this is about as good of depth of group as I've seen. There's the Terry kid. First off, I don't think we even really need to talk about him. We know what he's all about. And then some exciting guys beyond that as well. So tell us about the very deep running back group.
Well, yeah, it does. I mean, it does start with Jaden Terry. And I mean, he's recently committed to Fair State, so really proud of him for that. I just think, he is, he arguably, and he's the best running back I've ever coached, arguably maybe the best football player I've ever coached. From that running back spot, obviously he's super dynamic as a runner, the all-time leading rusher in OK Red history. But we look at every day and well, he's our best blocker. This guy when he doesn't have the ball is great too. So obviously it's as crazy as it seems. We expect him to take another step. How big a step that is, and I don't know, and that's not necessarily a statistical step or anything, but I think as a football player, I think he'll take another step, this year, and I think we'll see that. But we have talked a lot about him, and deservingly so. I think, the next guy we'll talk about is DJ Hardiman, who started every game for us last year as a junior. This is the thing I've said about DJ. Everybody knows Tank. And if you didn't know any better and you showed up to a Granville football practice or a workout, whatever it was, and they said, hey, Granville has this elite level running back, and Tank wasn't there, and you just watched DJ, so what's DJ? Because he has had such a good summer and a good camp. He is outstanding. I mean, he's one of the the best guys at the ball we ever coached. I think he's taking steps to be a better blocker. I think he's probably our best receiving running back as well. DJ is going to be a load this year for people. I mean, he's over 200 pounds. He's faster. He's stronger. I think he is one of the best running backs in the OK Red in the area, bar none. I mean, he just happens to play on a team with Jaden Terry, who might be, again, one of the best running backs in the history of West Michigan. So DJ has been outstanding, and I can't say enough, good things about him. Always wants to learn, asking questions. I think you're going to see him, take a big step this year as a junior with that. I think then you go, again, we look at some other guys. Braylon Haney, who I mentioned as a linebacker. Braylon was a starting running back for us for probably 4 or 5 games as a sophomore when he was up due to injury. He's a guy that I could see starting for us at the other running back because he gives us consistency. He always falls forward. He's physical. He's quicker. He's faster than he was as a year ago. And he's a guy that's going to give us, a good receiver out of the backfield. He's going to be a great blocker, and he's going to be a physical runner. Other guys that I want to talk about. One, Gavin Love. Fortunately, he's been dealing with some injuries, so hasn't participated as much as we'd like him to. And I know he's wanted to probably in the summer in the early camp. We're hoping he is, healthy and a go soon, because he had a great year last year on JV. Also played with us and did some good things in the varsity team as well. So we're hoping that he is available too. With that, Jeremiah Morales, who Played some at running back last year. Also played a little bit as a sophomore. Has a lot of versatility. Can play fullback. Can play halfback. Can play spots. Jeremiah Morales will also play some defense for us. We expect him to have a key role for us as well. And then we have one sophomore that's been with us, in the summer and through fall camp, and we'll see how it sticks. Is Oren Koyak. Oren, I mentioned again. I think I said Keegan Kroll might be the second fastest kid. Oren might be he might be the second or third fastest kid as a sophomore. So the kid is an electric runner. Is kind of learning the ropes a little bit, but we've had him with us. So he's going to be a guy we're going to continue to look at too. And I think at some point this year, if not the start of the year, you're going to see him emerge as a guy that is really, 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 really good with the ball, can catch the ball, can run the ball, as a physical blocker. I think he's a guy you're going to see as well, kind of emerge as a backfield candidate for us.
All right, that's all exciting to hear. I'm so excited for this season. Quickly, Coach, before we let you go, we'll talk about the start of the schedule, because you once again have just scheduled a bunch of cupcakes. Starting here with Muskegon, then going to take on the reigning state champions at Cass Tech before the OK Red Gauntlet starts. Just tell us about the first couple weeks and how important it is to have the team ready to go for those two games.
Well, I think, that schedule, we've historically had pretty tough schedules. And it is not a thing where I go out and say, like, well, I don't want to play this team. No, I have to play these. We've looked at a lot of local teams. We've looked at teams we've played in the past. And the fact is, one, we've been a successful program, but two, we run a unique offense. So we don't have a lot of people that want to play us. So, hey, we're playing Muskegon, who is, the all-time winningest team in the state of Michigan, 2023 Division II state champion, also plays a monster schedule. They've been a focus for us really, all summer into fall camp, because we know how good those guys are. And I have a ton of respect for Coach Fairfield and the job he does with that program. And they are an outstanding team. So, that'll be week one. It will be, it's going to be one where we better buckle it up tight. And I know they will too. So it's going to be a old fashioned, physical football game. And then week two, we do go to Cass Tech, the reigning, Division I state champions. That's going to be exciting. That was a game, we had Cass Tech scheduled, I believe, the COVID year, and, we didn't play them. And then, we had kind of talked to them in the past couple of years about playing, and it did work out this year that, we're going to play. We're going to play them we have a 2-year contract, I think, with both those teams. So next year we're going to see Muskegon and Cass Tech as well. So, Cass Tech's a team we've not played. They've not played us. So there's a little bit of unknown there. I think, except for the fact that, we know they are extremely talented. They're going to be well coached. And again, I think they are most people's, when you look at preseason polls, I think they are most people's number one team in the state. So that's going to be a big time matchup as well for us. And, we look forward to that. And then, then you have the OK Red, so which is no slouch. So every week in the OK Red is going to be a battle as well. So we look forward to those first couple of weeks. I think we really look forward to the Muskegon game. That's going to be one of the bigger games in West Michigan that night, and we're fortunate to have to have that game at home, and we expect to have a big opening night crowd, and it's going to be a fun game.
Cannot wait. It's going to be such a fun season. Granville head coach Eric Steagle, thank you as always so much for your time. Can't wait to get rolling.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate all you do to support the Dawgs. And, hey, go Dawgs.
That's right. Go Dawgs. Granville head coach Eric Steagle here on Game Night. All right. Awesome. Thank you so much, Coach. I'll see you Thursday.
That was good. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
See you. Bye.
Bye.
Upgrade to Music Jams Premium to get uninterrupted listening on all your favorite tunes. Click here to start your 7-day free trial.
If it's important, it's not worth compromising. Which is why with Farmers, you don't have to compromise quality to get great savings on your insurance. I got this.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Game Night is presented in part by Farmers Insurance, Bennett Center Agency, for all auto, home, specialty, life, and commercial insurance. See what a Center can do for you. The Game Night Shop is back for 2025 and restocked with new designs for the new season, along with classic bestsellers like the Granville vs. Everyone Power T-shirts. Show your support for Game Night and our Granville Bulldogs coverage with exclusive designs of T-shirts, hoodies, crew necks, hats, beanies, drinkware, stickers, and much more. Visit MichiganGameNight.com/shop to check it out today. All right, and welcome back, everyone, here to Bulldog Stadium. Scrimmage rolling on. During that last interview, Granville just scrimmaged with Belleville, who, good for them. They have another four-star quarterback and a lot of talent in this year, as Bryce Underwood is on to lead the Wolverines to a national championship, or a couple of them, over the next couple of seasons. Bulldogs, kind of some recap of what we've seen in the scrimmage so far. Really solid defensive performance for the Bulldogs, especially against Traverse City West. They gave up just one touchdown that came from the JV kind of part of things on the last drive there of the scrimmage, but defense looking really good. Granville really stopping the run well, especially as well. All that talent for Belleville, able to find the end zone once. One time, actually, Granville very effectively was able to punch the ball out at the goal line after a solid play, but some of that talent in the secondary, Granville figuring some things out. And as we know, Belleville's as good as it gets, and when it comes to the pass game, quite frankly. And when you look at what the offense was able to pull out for the Bulldogs, some solid performances that they were able to pull out, certainly against Traverse City West, but on the Belleville scrimmage, couple big things that stood out. First off, Tank Terry, he had a very Jaden Terry-esque touchdown run, stretched it outside of the defense, and was able to race around the corner of that vaunted defense for Belleville very effectively with some speed. Good touchdown as well for Braylon Haney that he had in there against Belleville. So the offense right now running the ball pretty effectively for the Bulldogs. Josh Crater running some of the quarterback duties right now for the Bulldogs out there, as once again we expect Jeffrey Fogelsonger to be the starter. Let's quickly take a look at some of the units here for the Bulldogs beyond what Coach Stiegel just went over on defense. I think one of the strengths of this team, what really excites me, is what they're going to be able to do up front. A lot of different pieces that can move inside and out. Evan Wyman, a big part of that. He'll be able to play inside a defensive tackle. He'll go outside as well as the defensive end. But then a rotation of Wiley, Stelma, Matsky, big defensive tackle, will be in the middle of things. Carter Kubzak comes off the edge. Brendan Reese comes off the edge. Caleb Cherry, a big guy in the middle as well. They've got a lot of pieces that can move around. They can go 3 down, 4 down front. They can change a lot of things defensively. That's exciting. DJ Hardiman, like Coach Stiegel mentioned, might see him come off the edge, and he provides an interesting little spark as well. The second unit, the linebacking core. This also is where we'll include talking about some of those hybrid players that this defense is going to have. Braylon Haney in the middle of it, third-year start on the defensive end of the ball, and Braylon will be in the middle of it. Garrett Naraki, also an outside linebacker. Most importantly, Garrett's got 2 hands this year. Of course, had been dealing with some injury really kind of over the last couple of seasons, but especially last year. So Garrett into a big role on both sides of the ball. That'll be big to see. Keegan Kroll, Jaden Terry. We'll include them at linebacker, but those are both going to be hybrid guys. Strong safety, outside backer. Jaden's going to move all over in like a Viper, or we'll call it like a tank position, let's just say, this year for the Bulldogs. He'll be in a big role. Those guys can move around, a big part of the variability that Coach Zenner has to work with. Carson Luke, Dylan Miller, Ethan Lovren, Gavin Roskam, a few other names as well that we saw during the scrimmage. Those a big part of that defensive second level as well. And again, variability in the way that they can use different guys for different roles when they are needed. Defensive backfield, Josh Crater will lead everything. You heard Coach Stiegel, the high praise that he had for Josh. Jaden Brown will anchor things at corner. He's back after the injury last year, but Cam Leonard looked pretty good in the scrimmage. Brecken Mann got some minutes. Jeremiah Morales out there as well, and a few other depth pieces that we're looking at in that secondary. And again, the secondary will be interesting because you'll have a guy like Kroll that will play more of a nickel role in a lot of cases, or Jaden Terry might play a nickel or a dime role based on what sort of defensive package that they're going to be in. We talked Coach Stiegel, by the way, special teams. Mason Guy listed as the punter. A couple of kickers, Owen Vasquez, the senior, and Luke Mulder, both on the roster. So the Bulldogs, that will be the options in terms of the special teams that we'll see offensively. Jeffrey Fogelsonger, as Coach Stiegel mentioned, he's the expected starter. Again, I think you'll see Josh Crater at quarterback. He has been quarterbacking the team. How about that for timing? Into the end zone, DJ Hardiman with a good run down the left side and into the end zone, racing by the St. Joe defense that Granville now scrimmaging against. So Hardiman Hardiman goes to the end zone right on cue for this unit. We'll talk about the running back group. It's deep this year. Jaden Terry leads the way. Mentioned he had that very classic Jaden stretch to the right touchdown against Belleville a moment ago during that scrimmage, looking very good. DJ Hardiman, just saw him looking, again, just brings a different element in terms of that size along with the speed at the fullback position, a little bit more of a grinder in that spot, and then a lot of depth that they can rotate through. Easy for me to say. At the other running back spot, Braylon Haney. Gavin Love is injured today, but we expect to see him have a really big role in this offense moving through the rest of the year. Oren Kayak, the speedster, he had a touchdown in the first of the scrimmage. Very, very quick sophomore. Jeremiah Morales will rotate in. There's a lot of depth, 4 or 5 guys that can play that second running back spot. If they decide to take Jaden Terry off the field as well, they can rotate Braylon Haney over to his spot and do a lot of fun things. So that offense is really good, led through that linebacking group. Naraki Kroll start at tight end. You also see some of Carter Jarsma along with Jackson Dodd. They both, I think, are going to develop into good roles and can have different roles. Dodd, kind of a Gibby Connolly clone, as Coach Stiegel mentioned, with a little bit more length. Carter Jarsma, a little bit more maybe of a really solid blocking tight end option that the Bulldogs are going to be able to go to. Across the offensive line, Matt Key, Lincoln Schackermeyer, Cohen Smith, Gavin Peters, Daniel Wiley, left to right across that offensive line. Matt Key moves from right to left tackle. Of course, he started 7 games last year at right tackle during the time that Jay Weiss spent injured. So Daniel Wiley moves across to the right side of the offensive line. Caden's younger brother, Gavin Peters. We, of course, know what Caden Peters was able to do for the Bulldogs. He will play and start at right guard. Cohen Smith, the new center that Coach Stiegel is really high on. And then Lincoln Schackermeyer, also the long snapper. He can play center. He can do a lot of different things on the offensive side of the ball. And then Brennan Reese, Evan Wyman, Grant Matsky, they may factor into some things as well. This is all just what Coach Stiegel said, but it's all some of the things I'm excited about with the way that the Bulldogs line up for 2025. They're going to need to be ready, as they've got Muskegon right away to start the year, then at Cass Tech. We know each of those teams bring a lot of question marks with Muskegon this year. They've got, I believe, Lamar Bradford's the plan, the senior, going to be the quarterback. Probably more of a return to the classic offense for Muskegon this year, running the football, running the triple option. They're going to be big up front. They're going to be really solid in the linebacking core, stopping the run as well. So a very classic Muskegon touch right here at Bulldog Stadium. And then the most talented team in the state of Michigan, no other way to put it, with Cass Tech, the second week of the year that the Bulldogs will have to travel to that week. All right, we'll take one more very quick break, get things turned around, and then we're going to wrap up the show by giving out our top 10 to start the year. Our West Michigan preseason top 10 myself, and I'll give Chandler's out as well, even though he couldn't make it with us today to the scrimmage. So a lot of exciting things to get to. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here from Bulldog Stadium. All right, welcome back, everyone, to Bulldog Stadium. Thanks again, as I mentioned off the top, to the Bennett Center Farms Insurance Agency, our presenting sponsor for game night on Michigan Sports Radio, and all of our Bulldogs coverage, along with the Dogs Plus podcast this season. The preseason top 10 rankings, we'll have these each and every week on the show. It won't be the preseason then, but we'll have these throughout the year. Chandler Timmer is not with me, so I'm going to try to do my Chandler impression, which is quite terrifying, and we're going to give his top 10. You can see it across the bottom of your screen. He is very high on Grady Augustin and West Catholic this year, a team that I think is loaded with as much returning talent as you're going to find in the area. I'll talk about them in a bit. Mona Shores, he's high on. He does have Hudsonville. He gave him a reigning championship boost a little bit right there to be the best of the OK Red. There's a mess of OK Red teams all throughout both of our top 10s at varying levels, but he's got Hudsonville right now, one just ahead of the Bulldogs. He said he was close on it, but looking at Hudsonville, bringing back Brady Van Lake and some of what they have, so he's going to, for the time being, keep the Bulldogs just behind Hudsonville. Byron Center reigning state runner-ups in there, Grand Rapids Catholic Central, Rockford, Muskegon, Zeeland West, the reigning state champions, who've got a lot of new quarterback, new coach, of course. Coach Shillito is now gone. And then East Kentwood, who's a very flashy pick. You'll see them actually a little bit higher up my list, which I don't know how I feel about yet there as well. All right, here we go. Let's go to my list, and I'll break it down a little bit more. I did it. Let's get through it. We'll start at 10. I do have Hudsonville at 10, and I think this is low, and I think they're going to prove that it's low pretty quickly. But the reigning state runner-ups, they did lose a lot. I do like Brady Van Lake, third-year starter, is moving to quarterback now, third-year player on varsity, now his first year starting at quarterback. Muskegon, I think they're still Muskegon. Bunch of 300-pounders up front. I think they're going to get back that old-school Muskegon run style, and we're going to learn a lot about what the Big Reds are right away to start the year. Grand Rapids Catholic Central, they're going to be a team that could move way up this list. They could be a team that moves into West Catholic-type territory because they've got a sophomore quarterback in Odin Spencer. What type of jump is he going to make this season? That will be critical to watch. Byron Center, I think they maybe should have been higher on my list, quite honestly, the more I research this team. Easton Weicher's at quarterback. He was up last year as a sophomore campaign. We know how great he was as a sophomore. They now move into the quarterback, running back duo. I think they lose a lot up front, but I think they'll be good still. I think this could be a team that runs the ball really effectively once again. I think Byron Center is going to be right around the same sort of effectiveness this year. I think they're going to be a scary football team to watch. I put Zeeland West still at 6. New coach. They've got some key offensive line back. The main thing is they've got Drew Albrecht coming in to play quarterback. He did some of that a year ago as well when Trey Slotok was hurt. But again, without Coach Shillito, without Slotok, without some of the other big pieces in the backfield and up front they had, what is this team going to be? But I felt just the fact that they're the reigning state champions, they deserved a little bit of respect there at the 6th spot. That's where I keep Zeeland West. Rockford's 5. They're still Rockford. They've got a second-year quarterback in Braden Daniels. The defense is going to be great for Rockford this year. That's what's going to lead them. Offensively, I think they're going to be able to throw the ball all over the yard. The offensive line, we'll see where it is. They lost a lot of big key seniors on the offensive line from last year's team, but I think Rockford is going to be a team that can put up a lot of points through the air on offense, and I think their defense is going to be very stout. Again, we all know if Rockford winds up number 1 at the end of all of this, that's not going to be overly surprising. I have East Kentwood too high, but also too low at the same time. The hype train is off the tracks with this team, but you have a 4-star quarterback and Cade Kaufman. You have Ty Spencer, who's one of the best coaches in the state. They have a great roster around them. I think they're going to be able to score points, and I think the defense is a little underrated as well. They're going to be good. I do have them just slotted ahead of Rockford for the time being, but again, all of those teams in the OK Red can move all around. The main storyline for me, and I think Chandler's well, 4 teams from the OK Red in the top 10, and I think you could put them in almost any direction you want. Grady Augustine West Catholic, a lot of key skill guys come back as well. I think Oshevsky will move to running back. I like that team a lot. I think they're well suited for Coach Grove to go on a run. Coach Grove staying at West Catholic again, and I think that's going to be a place where he's going to win for a long time going ahead still, and this year is going to be a really special team. Mona Shores definitely, I weighed putting them at 1. Joel Thole comes over from Portage Northern at quarterback. They've got a lot of the line back. They got Ike Stewart at running back, so you've got a transfer quarterback that's as good as any in West Michigan. You have a running back that is as good as any, except for maybe one behind me in West Michigan. I like that Mona Shores team a lot. I think they're going to be a state championship threat. And number 1, I had to do it with where the pressure is this year on this team, with all they have returning, with how good I think the defense is going to be, with the best player, the best running back in the state of Michigan. I've got the Granville Bulldogs at my preseason number 1. They've got a very tough schedule, and it's going to be difficult that you have to play a team who would be my statewide number 1 the second week of the year, but they'll get a top 10 test right away against Muskegon. They'll get Cass Tech, then the OK Red. We'll see if they're going to be able to stay right around that top, but I think when it comes back to it, I think this Granville team, even if they take some body blows during the regular season, if they take a loss or two and with that difficult schedule, I think this is a team that's got a great chance to be back in that district championship game, to maybe win that district championship game, and who knows the kind of run that the Bulldogs can go on after that. So I had to do it. Granville, my top team in my preseason West Michigan top 10 this year. Call me a homer, I don't care, but I think that this year's team is going to be a special one for the Bulldogs. I love all the returning pieces they have. I love the backfield, and I think it's just on both sides of the ball. It's as good as we've seen Granville in a long time. For as good as last year's team was, and for the pieces they lost, I think they return a lot of guys that are just as exciting on the other side of the football all around. So that'll do it. That was Dawgs Live. We did a podcast live for the first time. And, all right, the next time you're going to see us is going to be August 28th. Ball came free. I think Granville just picked up a fumble behind me. This was kind of difficult. I want to see the scrimmage myself. Y'all are just kind of watching it behind me. But, all right, 28th, Thursday night, video coverage. We will be back here at Bulldog Stadium through MichiganSportsRadio.com and the MSR app. You know how to find us there. Then the following week, sometime early in the week, we will have the first episode, regular season episode of Dawgs Plus back. So keep an eye out for that. And then we'll have live coverage at Cass Tech. Then we get rolling. We'll have coverage at West Ottawa, coverage at Caledonia. We will have Michigan Sports Radio covering against Rockford. We'll be somewhere else. I think we might be doing the Byron Center game. I think it's Byron Center, Mona Shores. And as far as I know, there wasn't other coverage of that, so we might be there that week. And you know the rest of our schedule. Head up during the Coach Stiegel interview. You can find it on at MI Game Night across social media. Thanks to the Bennett Center Farmers Insurance Agency for presenting our coverage. Visit the Game Night shop. We've got some new stuff there as well. MichiganGameNight.com/shop. I made it actually easy to get there this year, so that's exciting. All right, I'm going to watch a little bit of the end of the scrimmage here. Granville and St. Joe wrapping some things up. Thanks for tuning in live or on demand if you tune in as well via the Michigan Game Night YouTube page. All right, we'll see everyone. Granville, Muskegon, Week 1. CT will be right alongside me here from Bulldog Stadium up in the press box. Cannot wait to get to it. 2025 is here. It's going to be an exciting year of Bulldog football on Game Night on Michigan Sports Radio.